Let's talk about how to actually read research papers. My name's Samantha Kretting. I am a professor, and grad students do not automatically know how to read massive amounts of research. And yet, when you start out in grad school, especially if you're a PhD student, you are required to read a lot of research papers. And this can make people feel like they are just thrown in the deep end. It can be very stressful. So, I'm going to tell you how to do it in a better way. So, first of all, reading a research paper is not like reading a mystery book for fun. All right, if you read a mystery book, you like to kind of build up the suspense. You like to look at all of the different facts and try and figure out what the solution is in your mind. And you don't flip to the very last page in the beginning to see who done it, because that would take away a lot of the enjoyment of reading the book, right? Academic reading, very different. You flip to the last page and you read the whodunit in the very beginning, right? One of the best things I can suggest for academic reading is to, from the very beginning, know what all the main parts are, what all the main points are, and don't be confused. So how do you actually do this? Well, start off by reading the abstract. It's like 200 words or something. It's short, and it will give you an overview of what are the research questions, what did they do, what were the results. Okay, these are very good things to know. You can look at the paper and see, yeah, that sounds relevant, or no, I don't want to read that. That's not at all related to my area of research. Okay, so assuming you choose to continue, the next thing I recommend you do is just to skim through the introduction. The introduction will state in more detail what the research questions are, what the gap is, like what's the big problem they're trying to solve, why it's important, why you should care. So just skim through that so you have a better idea of the research questions. And then, just like what you don't do in a mystery book, skip all the way to the conclusion. Read the conclusion. This is a great way of figuring out what actually happened. What do the authors think are important? What are the main takeaways that the authors want you to know? That's where you start. Because the authors, they love their research. They're going to talk about all sorts of things. They're going to discuss things from different perspectives. And it can be a little confusing, right? So you skip to the conclusion and you just figure out what the authors think are the most important things. Now you go back to the front, right? Maybe read through the introduction in full this time, but then skip to the methods and the results and discussion. Don't read them all the way, just skim. Skim through the methods, skim through the results and discussion, and see what the main points are. By skimming, you'll have an idea of how did they actually accomplish this and what were their main results. Now, because you've already looked at the conclusion and you know the main points, you can look through the results and discussion and pay more attention to the things linked to the main points of the paper, the main outcomes that they're like, this is the most important thing. If you don't remember anything else, remember this, right? That's what should be jumping out at you. Okay, so now you go back to the beginning and you can read through the full paper. It sounds like it might take longer to do it this way. It doesn't. It doesn't. Because if you start at the very beginning of a paper and you read through the abstract and the introduction and then the background and lit review and then methods and results and discussion and conclusion, you spend so much time confused, right? You don't know how much importance to place on each bit of the discussion. You don't know how important different parts of the setup and the methods are. You don't know what to pay attention to and what parts are really important that you really need to dig into to fully understand what's going on. So if you just start at the beginning and you read through, you're probably going to spend a fair amount of time confused or backtracking or just uncertain. And that doesn't feel good, right? If you're spending, let's say, an hour every day reading research, yeah, that's just, you spend a lot of that hour just being uncertain and unhappy and confused, and it's just not pleasant. But if you do it the way that I'm suggesting, right, where you go through it, each time skimming a little bit more, reading a little bit, and then finally reading the whole thing, from the very beginning, you start off knowing this is what's in this paper. This is the most important thing. This is what I should pay attention to. And then you just slowly fill in the details. And so instead of spending that same hour being miserable, you spend that hour feeling like, yes, I am confident. I know what's going on. This is awesome. I've got it. I understand it. And also by repeatedly getting exposure to the material, sometimes it just sinks in better. You remember it better, which is nice. Sometimes it can actually take a lot less time to read this way, because instead of getting stuck in certain parts of the paper and just having the whole thing be really slow, now it's faster. Sometimes you can cover many more papers in the same amount of time using this method. It works great for me. Let me know if it works for you. Write it in the comments. You can use this same thing for textbooks, right? Start at the very beginning, skim through, go to the very end of the chapter to see what are the main takeaways, what you should pay attention to, then maybe skim the chapter to see, oh, in this section it covers this important thing. This section covers this important thing. This other section, it wasn't mentioned anywhere, so it might be interesting, but it's not, the most important thing for understanding the material. Then go back through and read the whole thing, okay? This is great. This is very helpful. It's not like a mystery book. You want to spoil the surprise with academic reading, okay? Flip to that last page, find out who done it, and you'll be happier for it in academic reading. All right, so hit the like button, subscribe, do notifications, all the YouTubey things, and let me know what you think in the comments.